Welcome to Talk of the Monarchy. I'm your host, Ryan Nichols, and we have our final episode with Tom Highmore. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, mate.
We've got it.
Today?
Yeah, just in case, just in case. So, guys, a little bit of a delay between episode 2 and 3. We've had Christmas, New Year. I have spent a couple of days in Egypt, getting some well-deserved sun, I think. Tom's also been back and forth to London.
Not getting sun though, unfortunately.
Working though.
Working,
and lots going on for 26, which is exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're a week late with this episode, but still really excited to bring this to you. Tom, we touched on career acting, sort of that reinvention, really. Leaving Canada, coming to London, also coming back to the UK more importantly, but obviously spending lots of time in London where majority of the work is.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought I'd delve into in terms of the nitty-gritty, acting, is that like expression or exposure? Like how do you see it? Is it something that's just always been there, or is this something that was, maybe there was 2 or 3%? We'll call it expression, and then through school and education, and I mean acting school and lessons and things like that, is that bringing more out of you, or is this just like maybe, sort of.
So, like, was it always there? I guess.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what is funny, because when it clicked, it really made sense. I think I don't know if I said this in the other podcast, but I was making content for our gym during COVID.
Yeah.
And so it was like filming. I filmed a couple like fun dress up kind of videos, and I was like, I love being in front of a camera. And I always felt this strong creative streak in me, and I expressed it in ways that like even programming for the gym was a creative outlet. And I always found ways to express it, but never really like fully felt like I was like really living it. And I think when I clicked that I wanted to do that acting might be an option for me, I was like, yeah, that feels right. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
I like what you've just said there, actually. And this has just come off the cuff, like most of my questions actually do. You've just said something which was sort of programming for your gym, for your members, and it was a big space, super popular. Was a kind of expression, and I'd never thought of it like that, but you are bang on.
Yeah.
So I've recently done some competitions, got back into competing again in CrossFit. It's been really fun. Got a couple lined up for this year already. I think that's going to be the thing that I do for 26. Compete as much as I can, right? In some of those comps, I would say the programming for the competitions has been without any pizzazz, without any. They have thought about maybe some movements that are, complement each other in terms of how much they bury the other person. Does that make sense? Right. But they haven't necessarily thought about how it is to be viewed. What are the guys watching feeling, right? And you would have been in a comp or competing, getting something from the crowd. Can give you another 10%. So I feel like you need to program not only, 2 movements that are going to sort of hammer someone and really put their body under fatigue, but also what does it look like to the guys? So 100%. The way in which you've just said, even with my programming, was sort of like a expression, for want of a better word. I'd never really thought of it like that. But anyone can program, right? But can you program with that sort of unique sort of like pizzazz, that gold dust,
that's
hit
something.
Both things,
Yes, because there's programming for practicality and like progression, and there's certain things like just doing back squats every week is going to get your back squat better. But how do you make a workout that's like, oh, we want to do some lunges afterwards and some jumping and some like that's not just like, oh, okay, we're doing 3 sets of 10 lunges and 10 box jumps.
How do you make, you've got to get the fun in it, as well as, like you said, the practicality and arguably the science behind why we're doing it, right? But how do we get it so it feels good, looks good? How do we get it so it looks great on camera if you're filming for content and things along those lines?
Well, even with competitions, what I thought about was when because we used to throw in-house competitions as well, like we wanted stuff that was awesome to watch, like really hard workouts, but like you know, I was just the thing kind of made it. So like axle bar cleans, rope climbs, you know, like deficit handstand push-ups, like really like fun, hard stuff. And like maybe it's a ladder that ascends, and, you know, like it's stuff that you can do it. There's a standard version of it, and then there's like a sexy version of it, you know?
Yeah,
And I think
no,
that's
I'm
what
with you.
people want, right? You go to a competition. I've been at competitions before where it's like row for 8 minutes. It's like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I get it. They're like, we're testing your energy. You know, like, sure, but also like do some other fun stuff as well. Like it can't be that boring, you know what I mean?
So we went to Strength and Depth, as in CrossFit Monarch last year. Really cool. You know, Jim was less than 3 years old. We get to go to
because that's a big old crew.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. You take 12. You take
Jeez.
12, and you know, so the sort of top 10 teams that, you know, make the sort of final workout are another level.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah,
another level of athlete.
Oh,
you
man.
know, they're hitting 140 snatches and
Yeah,
mad things.
Yeah.
You know, 20 unbroken muscle ups like it's nothing. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're the elite.
Yeah.
They're great to watch. In fact, they're the only ones that are finishing the workouts in the time.
Right, okay.
Everyone else is just getting capped somewhere all the way through. So it was a really proud moment. It had always been done at CrossFit Bath. Bath University.
Yeah.
So I'd done it a couple of times with CrossFit Civitas.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4. So that was always really cool. And then Ryan White, my business partner, said we should do the qualifiers. It was a small fee we paid, and just said, look, if anyone wants to sort of almost prep for next year, this is what it's like. We need to get everyone together at the same time. We need to try and get the best score possible with various teams, and you can switch it up. Like you could do the workout as many times as you want with different formats, however you like. So me and you could do it and be like, oh, it didn't quite work with Tom. Let's get someone else in, and then I might do it again. And so you can really do it, you know, really sort of nail it, if that makes sense. So we actually qualified, which was amazing. So we take the gym, but one of the workouts was rower, bike erg, ski erg.
Yeah.
Max calories on all of them, or max meters maybe on all of them. And you're in teams of 6, and you'd move from the rower to the skier, from the skier to the biker, and you go all the way through till you've done all of them.
Yeah.
But they'd linked up the cables so you could see a leaderboard. So I could see 3 people in front of me, but 3 people chasing me. So on my screen, so you're giving it some.
That's really good.
So sat in the seat, it was actually quite exciting because I'm like, fucking hell, I know, CrossFit Newham are behind me.
Yeah.
Or they've just overtaken me, but by the time they swap their partner, I can get ahead or something like that.
Sure.
However, from a spectator's point of view, they're like, yawn.
Bit of a yawn first.
Yeah. So I get it. Like you said, it's got to attack a different energy system, constantly varied and all that jazz. But from a watching point of view, especially a competition where you do have lots of spectators, it was a bit of a bore fest.
Yeah.
It was way more exciting being in it, even though, you know, that isn't really necessarily my bag in terms of sort of workout style. But you're definitely right. There's skill to it.
Yes, there is.
Moving on, and not too far away. You've had a year back in the UK.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. So if you were to reflect on that year and a half, was it the biggest risk you think you've taken to date?
I mean, I suppose in recent years, like, yes, there's a lot of change in the last several years. You know, even leaving the CrossFit gym I was at to go on my own personal training. And that all kind of meshed with acting because I was like, I need more freedom now. I don't want to be, I want to be able to completely choose my own schedule.
Yeah.
But quitting all of that, leaving Vancouver, like leaving the whole life I have, you know, left a business that was running, it was a good personal training business. You know, I had a good staple of clients, and then come back to the UK and being like, I'm starting from scratch, done with training people, and I'm going to try and act in the UK.
Yeah.
Like starting in London, having no contacts there, basically.
So that's what I was thinking. I'm thinking you've left a successful business.
Yeah.
Then you left that successful business to run your own, you know, PT business, which you said
we're successful. Yeah.
Successful.
Yeah.
I'm as busy as I need to be, want to be.
Yeah.
Whilst obviously trying to continue down the route of exposure to acting opportunities. So, and then you've come back to the UK, like you said, no contacts, You can't say that you came via a school or agency here. You spoke in the last one about had to find an agent, and how and work that out. You're then moving back to London, and you're staying with your brother for a short period of time. So like, yeah, massive risk.
Yeah.
And all at that the sort of like kind of age where you said before, well, I've got mates who've got their own construction businesses who are buying their second property or just had their first or second kid. Do you know what I mean? So like, I think if you're an outsider looking in, and we've had conversations off air, a lot can change in a real short period of time, right? But yeah, I think that is a huge risk, but one that I feel like you didn't doubt.
No, I mean, there was times where I'm getting pulled. Like, I'm a big believer in like the universe and like, you know, spiritually stuff you put out there, and kind of getting guided along the way when you point yourself in a direction. So I felt like I was kind of being pulled from like, well, pushed from Vancouver, being pulled to UK. So I was like, there was a moment where I'm like, I'm kind of going kicking and screaming right now because I feel so discombobulated with what's happening. Like, you know, just packing up and leaving in a month's period. Like, you know, like I was thinking about it for several months, but then all of a sudden I had to leave the place. I got 30 days notice to leave the place I was in. And I'm like, right, I have to either find a new place here or just go.
And then probably stay for 6 months.
Yeah, stay for, whatever it is. Yeah, really. And then, and I wasn't, you know, and I wasn't happy. So it was a lot of turmoil, I guess, internally and even externally. Although I wanted to be happy, like I was always trying to enjoy every day, it was just a lot of like, I don't know which way is up right now. And then all of a sudden I was like, right, I'm going back to the UK, I guess. My brother was super kind, and he, you know, him and his partner, and they put me up. They, you know, they had a room, they had a spare room, and they're like, we would love to have you. So they gave me kind of a soft landing, I guess. Nice. But when I got back to the UK, I'd slept for like the first month. Like I was so just drained and exhausted. And then it was like, right, let's figure this out. Yeah, let's see what we can do. Yeah,
love it. So I explained earlier at the start of the sort of pod. We did our filming in the first 2 in the gym, which was really fun. We're going to do the third one, and then the mics ran out of battery, and we were chatting, so we're doing the third one here, which has actually worked out great.
Yeah, I reckon, yeah.
But if you're able to tell any of the watchers and the listeners, what does 2026 look like for you? I know there's been some more recent changes, which is super exciting. But yeah, what does the next 6 months look like for yourself and sort of your career path, I suppose?
So just to kind of, I guess, to recap from landing, I took the sort of a couple months off. I was like, going to take the summer off, reset, and then September time was like, right, let's just start putting myself out there. Was applying for acting jobs through casting websites. Was trying to just build my experience and CV. Like, I'd done a few projects in Vancouver, and actually it was signed with an agency in Vancouver, but I didn't have a ton of film experience on my belt. The agent was sending me auditions, but it really wasn't working because, like, unless it was a chunkier part, I couldn't fly back to Vancouver for just, you know, a day play a role kind of thing. So then I was just like navigating the acting world in London. Fast forward 6 months. This time last year, so January of 2024, I signed, or
25. It's 26 now, my friend. 26 now.
Yeah, signed with an agent, get linked with an agent, signed with an agent, and I'm like, right, I'm just all in this year. You know, this is my only. I didn't take on another job because I was like, I just want to try and give all my energy to acting and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll do everything. You know, I was doing student projects and commercials, Instagram ads for companies, and other films and stuff like that. So I had a really good year last year, I will say. You know, there wasn't any Netflix shows or any, you know, huge jobs like that, but I did a lot of stuff, and I'm really sort of proud of what I did last year. This year is looking a little different. I come back to Chippenham, obviously, for Christmas, and kind of spent some time with family, and I was like, I'll spend a couple months here, perhaps reevaluate, see if I want to be back in London. And then I just spoke to a friend, literally this morning, yesterday, about potentially getting a place for February 1st. So it looks like I'll be heading back, all being well, if that goes ahead. So this year, the goal is much of the same, but feeling like hopefully another step up the ladder, you know, another rung up the ladder. I feel like I've been putting in work and I've got a lot better as an actor.
more for people to see? Like you said, you've spent the last 12 months saying probably yes to 99.9% of things. Because like, right, yeah, do I love being on stage? Maybe, but you know, it might be something that I'm really good at, and you know, that sort of presence. So I suppose you've got a lot more to show in terms of, I've done a whole catalogue of things. What do you want to see? Because I can show you adverts. I can show you, Do you do voiceover work? Do actors tend to, or are they completely different?
Yeah,
that's
definitely. My part. They definitely do. Yeah, there's people who are like really hardcore voiceover actors, but I have done like voiceover for like ads that I've done. I would like to do. I've been thinking about getting like a voiceover reel put together, you know, to sort of send out there. But I would love to do like animation and stuff like that.
With voiceover stuff, does it pay the same as acting?
It pays really well. If you get good stuff, and you know, a lot of the time you're working from home because if you've got a studio set up at home.
Sure.
So
it could be this environment. Someone could send you a book, a children's book.
Yeah.
And you.
I would say like audio books would probably be more so in the studio.
Fine. And
most likely.
Right. Okay.
If it was a, you know, proper job, but a lot of just like paragraph to be a voiceover for an advert or something would be record from home, you know. And it can, you know, it's like an hour or two's worth of work, and it might be 500 quid to 1,000 quid just for like an hour or two's worth of work.
Sweet, sign me up.
Yeah, literally, right? Like this, very good.
Do you ever? So now that you're in, like, this is your world. This is your career, more importantly. But this is your jam. Have you ever got to a point where you've been like, you've heard someone speak and you've gone, bro, you'd be so good at some voiceover. Voiceover. Okay.
But you know what? It's usually people who have done like singing and stuff.
Okay.
You can really, they just know, they project so well.
Right.
But there are some people who just have a randomly like amazing
voice.
Yeah. Okay. And you're like, you should be on radio. You should be, you know, narrating something.
Yeah. Fine.
I do see a lot of that. And I see people who I'm like, you know, been out for beers and you see someone, I'm like, are you an actor or a model? Like, I went to this guy like not that long ago actually, and I was like, mate, you should be modeling because you're a bit tipsy.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, you'd be killing it. Like, you should be modeling. You should.
Did
be
you
acting.
think you were hitting on him?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't ask for his number. No, not really. But yeah, no, it was more like, you know, innocent, I guess. But it's definitely one of those things where you start to see things differently. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose because you are looking at maybe what someone looks like, how they're coming across. If they're maybe telling a story to their friends, and you're like, this guy or girl has got the attention of everyone. They're all entertained. You can see a lot. We'll call it energy for want of a better word, right? Yeah. So you could be sat there having a quiet pint reading a book and go, yeah, that guy there, or that barman has fucking got these guys literally on toast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but unless some people get discovered that way, you know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Really good. The voiceover stuff is always, you know, you can name like a Morgan Freeman or something like that, you know, and you're like, that's so distinctive. But yeah, I do wonder how some people get into that world. But like you said, it sounds like it's very much along the same thing.
Yeah,
maybe they're an
actor
before or singer or something along those lines.
Yeah, it could be part of the same kind of thing.
This is something that struck me. We were flying back the other day, and I was thinking, I've done workouts where I've been like, can't be bothered. I've coached where I've not been, I can always be bothered, but I've coached when I've been like, that was not a good class. You know what I mean? Like, maybe I wasn't as organized as I should be, or I thought I read the notes, but I read the notes for the next day. And they're like, oh no, now I'm thinking on my feet. Yeah. And there's 20 people in my class or something along those lines. And equally, there's just some days where, you know, you lift and you go, I am feeling on fire, right? We're hitting one of our ends today because the bar feels good. How does it, and then you can relate to that, obviously, athlete coach.
Yeah.
If you're doing something, if you're on set and you're not feeling it, or you're having a bad day, you don't get to come back the next day, I assume, especially if it's an audition. You don't go, sorry, I'm not feeling it today. Can I come back another day when I am? Like, there's no option for that. If anything, if you come in and have a stinker, they're going, I never want to see that guy again. That was a complete waste of my time. How do you get past that? And is there a time in the last 18 months where you can go, right, I turned up and this was like the worst, like swallow me up. Like, if you're thinking about it now, you're thinking, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Like, has that happened yet? Where you're like,
had a lot of times when I'm just not feeling good at all that day, you know, and I've had times where I'm like just feeling like completely off balance, like anxious, you know, and you're like, but you're like, in 5 minutes, I've got to go and do this. So there's going to be a camera rolling. There's going to be people expecting me to do it. So that's really hard. I find it's more like I don't generally get that nervous like before I'm about to go on camera, unless just in general you're feeling off. Like I find with caffeine, that's why I don't really do a lot of caffeine, because caffeine can make me mega anxious. So I've learned that I don't usually have it when I'm on set for that reason, because I've literally had one before. Like I've been fine and filming for like a couple of hours, had a cup of coffee, and then I go on front of camera. I'm like I get almost like panic attack-esque, and then you start forgetting your lines because your oxygen supply to your brain is like cutting off or whatever it is. So I've had that. I found stage is the worst. That was where I realized, like, if you're feeling, because after the first night I was mega nervous for the first show because my first time doing stage. This was back in October, and but you know, it was fine, got through it, like felt fine when I was acting on stage. The next morning I woke up, the adrenaline dump, I felt like I'd drunk 100 pints and been hit by a bus. I was literally like, oh no,
you got to do this again.
I got to do this again for the next 2 weeks. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym. I was like, I need to just like feel a barbell in my hands and like move, because I could have slept for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
But I was like, so I did that and went to, you know, the theater, and it's like she sort of arrived an hour and a half, 2 hours before. And I was just there and I'm like, I'm exhausted. I don't know. I'm fucked. I don't know how I'm going to do this. But, you know, life experience up to this point just teaches you, you know, you suck up and you do it. I think that's where like learning the skill of, I guess, like the craft of acting, you know, any job, the better you become at it, the more skilled you have, the more you can just draw from your toolbox, I suppose.
Have you had people more experienced than you that have either seen that you might be, we'll say struggling, but I'm using that term super loosely. Or they just know that you're sort of new to the game, if that makes sense. Have you had anyone put their arm around you and say, this is what I do? Or is there a go-to thing for that energy? And I'll tell you the reason. So that's the first question. And then, not to relate to this, but I worked in back in my early 20s, I worked in recruitment. And the guys who were like proper real grafters had extracurricular party things to help them work till 9 o'clock at night and then still be in the next day and stuff like that, right? Is that a thing in the acting world where like you might come away feeling low? So are people trying to find highs to get them back to a level playing ground?
That's the question. I don't know. I've not personally experienced that. I'm sure, who knows, maybe it's a thing. It probably is, or certainly has been at one point for some people, but I haven't experienced that. I'm sure it's just a lot of caffeine. Like that's what I've experienced, is people just caffeinating a lot. Because days on set are like 12 hours generally. And, you know, again, talking about a theatre thing, before trying to rally and get amped up when everyone's pretty exhausted after doing it for 3-4 nights in a row. And so caffeine, but in terms of the older, more experienced actors, I haven't had like, you know, that sort of like Ian McKellen, Gandalf, like father figure, you know, like wise one kind of, you know, and I haven't worked with someone who's like a god, you know, an acting god who has really been like, hey kid, you know, here's a bit of advice for you. But I've made friends with the guy. He's like 62. We've become pretty good friends. We've done a few projects together. He actually did the play with me. And he's been good at just giving me some tidbits through his experience and wisdom. Like he's become a good friend, and he sort of will say, you know, hey, here's how I've paced out over the years.
So how would you say you deal with, you know, say we're about to go into a show together, and I'm showing clear signs of maybe some anxiety or nerves. What do you say to me?
I can buckle up.
There's 200 or 300 people out there that pay to see you, bro. Don't let them down.
Pressure, well, that was me before the first show. I genuinely had, like, it was backstage, and I use that term loosely, backstage. It was a tiny little theatre, so it was a tiny little room, and it was like really congested and hot, and we had a cast of 10, so we were all sandwiched in, and people start coming in, and And I'm first out with me and one of the females, first out on stage. I'm the first line, I'm giving the first line, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, literally like, I can't do this. I was like, I'm gonna, the thing's not gonna be able to go. I had an internal moment. I wasn't externalizing it, but inside I was complete turmoil. And I was like, I need to get out of this room. Like once everyone had filtered into theater, I managed to find a breakout room just to take a minute. And I'm like, I have to do this. I was like, even if I go out on stage and black out, I have to at least walk on the stage. I can't not do it. So that was what I did. I was just like one step at a time, and I went out there and it was fine. As soon as I was giving my lines, I was fine. There was moments in between where I had to like sit on my breath, but so much of it is about, settling your breath down.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah.
So will you, or have you ever looked at like, there's Wim Hof, breathwork guys, and been like, this can relate to maybe, times where there's going to be, all right, I'm having a bit of a wobble.
Yeah.
Or do you ever looked at them previously in your fitness space?
Yeah, I started learning about breathing and breath work and stuff in like 2021.
Okay.
2021.
Fine.
It was right around the time I started acting, just coincidentally. I guess because I was learning to sing as well, so I was learning about breath for that, and everyone was talking about like diaphragmatic breathing. And I'm like, I read a couple of good books, one called Breath, one called Breathe. But James Nesbitt, I believe, one's Breath, where he was talking about nose breathing. And then this other one from a psychologist, and she's talking about diaphragmatic breathing and relating through her practice anxiety and panic attacks to the way someone breathes. And she's like, I can just tell by now looking at someone now if they're going to be anxious or not. She's talking about being a vertical breather versus a horizontal breather. So breathing here versus expanding that way. So, a simple test is just to like put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly, and then you breathe in, which hand moves.
Oh, interesting.
Right? And
I feel like I was chesty.
Yeah. So for me, I know that I have to, and there's a bunch of exercises she gives. So I lie on my back and I'll put a weight on my belly. Just like a lightish weight, 5 kilos-ish.
Yeah.
And do breathing into that because it helps. So I store a lot of tension like in my diaphragm. And I know it makes me feel anxious when my breath is stuck there. So I have to just do a lot of breath work. It's like strength training almost.
Yeah. Like stretching.
Stretching, whatever you want to call it. And so if my breath is off, then I know that I'll feel generally more anxious.
Yeah.
So that's a big one for me.
Yeah, nice. It was a question that I mentioned earlier before we started rolling. What's the biggest misconception about an acting career? You've been in the game now a couple of years. Obviously more and more exposure for 2025. It sounds like it was great. I've obviously seen some of the things you put on your social media in terms of shows and stuff. But yeah, what would you say has been like a common dinner question you get, or that misconception that people think, I remember from episode 2, you mentioned people think, a misconception is if you're not in a movie, you're not an actor, right? Yeah. So I think obviously only the real naive divvies would think that, but is there another one where you're like, people always think this and it's not?
Yeah.
Anything that springs to mind?
I think, people will probably see it as either really glamorous.
Yeah.
Or like the opposite end where it's like you're, a starving artist and you don't get to call yourself an actor until you're, an A-lister. So I think the glamorous side of things is probably that, anytime you're in a show or film, you're getting a car service to pick you up and a trailer to like chill in and have. So there's always
water is not the temperature.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not.
Go get me another one.
Fiji water. Yeah. So, and you get looked after, you have catering on set and everything, but, some is better than others. Some is terrible, often, like the green room or whatever, where we're going to chill is like really not great. And it's like just whatever room in whatever house you're in, and you're like, and that sounds like nice to be able to like sit down on the job, like for most people who are working regular work, they're like, well, I don't get food and I don't get somewhere to go and rest. But when you're doing 12-hour days and you've got like, 6 a.m. call time or whatever, 7 a.m. call time plus like commute and everything, they end up being like 14, 15-hour days all the time. So you do need places to break out. And also, again, having done different careers in manual labor and then, CrossFit and fitness, they're all exhausting in their own way. You know, if you're prepping for a scene and it's really emotional, really heavy, you have to go to some pretty tough places, or like you give so much out. So, you know, you do need quiet a lot of the time before, and everyone's different at what they like, but I will quite often like that quiet time before to kind of simmer in the emotions that I'm about to go. Especially if I've got a, you know, it's emotional, where there's going to be tears or there's going to be anger, like really hard anger. You know, I need to be simmering in that so that it's ready to go when it's time, when the camera's on. So, and then once if you've been filming that, and you know, when you do a scene, like you and I doing a scene, there'll be the wide shot, which is capturing us like this camera's capturing us now.
Yeah.
Then there'll be the over the shoulder shot of my POV of you, and vice versa at me, and maybe one other angle, but usually let's say those three. So we're going to run this scene however many times it needs to get all the takes wide, and then set everything up again. Now facing you, now set everything up again, now facing me. So that'll all be done separately. So that might take 3, 4, 5 hours, 7 hours, however long it takes. And then you're like, I need to just get away from this space and just...
I've seen on your casting reel, there's like a military scene. You grab this guy by the scruff of the neck. I think you like wrestle him to the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in a scene like that, will he say, bro, go like, be as rough as you need to, you know, because we want it to feel, or have you ever got into a scene and they're like, Tom, like, stop tapping him and fucking throw him. It's a little bit like, so I've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu and a little bit of like boxing, and sometimes you'll spar and the person you're sparring with might go, yeah, you can hit me hard on that, mate. And like, right, okay. And then especially in jiu-jitsu, you might get like a small lady, and you'll go to throw them, but as I throw, I'm like almost trying to hold them from hitting the ground, and they'll be like, mate, you can throw me to the ground. It's like, okay. Like, you're not quite sure what to do. Is that like similar in what you're doing? You're going into a scene where it might be a fight scene, or like you said, you might have to pull someone off. Is it like, bro?
I just want to clarify, I've never had to pull someone off on camera. Just for the record.
Oh, hey, mate, 2026.
Exactly. Pay that London rent,
But yeah, have you ever had someone like come to you and be like, you need to give it like, more aggression or something along those lines, or?
Everything's an innuendo. So usually there's a stunt coordinator.
All I'm thinking of that scene in The Office, when he goes up to Gareth, and he's like, you've pitched your hole. He's coming at you really hard.
He's coming in your hole.
You've seen your camp.
Oh, God, The Office is so good.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So,
sorry, no, but just
back to it. There's usually a stunt coordinator.
Okay.
So someone who will run you through all these things to make sure it's done safely. Same with like intimacy coordinator to make sure there's nothing inappropriate happening. The thing is, the more you can both have the agreement between the two of you. So like I've done quite a few fight scenes with guys, and most of them, you know, like there's certain things that you can't be reckless and like actually punch someone. But sometimes it happens, like on the stage show I just did, where we were fighting and punching and stuff like that, and you sometimes clip someone maybe just in the gut a little bit, or like just brush their chin. I'm not full on like whack someone, but you know, you're trying to get close, and there's certain little tactics you do.
If we were doing a fight scene, would I wear padding if you were going to like hit me to the body, so you could hit me? But like, because that would be more realistic, wouldn't it? Like if I'm wearing some kind of padding and I say, hit me as hard as you want, I'm probably not going to feel much.
I don't know.
Okay.
You calling me a pussy?
No, you punch really hard.
Yeah, that's right. To be fair, I've never done ones where it's actually been contact with punches. So it's only, you know, because the angle of the camera, if they're capturing like over my shoulder or the side or whatever, you know, and you move with me. Yeah. Because I can go in like as if it's full bore, and then you can kind of cave in. And if I stop just as I, but maybe you definitely do use like crash mats and stuff if you're getting thrown to the floor. And, you know, again, it might be very different on a big...
You've just mentioned something like there'll be like a stunt coordinator. So at this point in your acting career, are you doing your own stunts? Is that like normal, expected? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, well, to be honest, this isn't like, you know, they call them stunt coordinators, is just a title, but a lot of the time it's just fight choreography.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe if you're getting thrown to the ground or throwing someone to the ground and stuff like that. I've not done anything wild. Like I've not done any crazy like motorcycle off a ramp,
On your CV, and if you're writing, like, so your CV has a list of skills, are you putting that, if you need me to throw a barbell around, I'm qualified and capable. I look like I know what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
When I'm doing
look the part. That's what I'm going to say. So my old jiu-jitsu sensei, so black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
He is in the Tom little guy.
Hardy?
No, American little
Holland?
guy. Oh, Mission Impossible.
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. He is in the Mission Impossible films as one of the bad guys.
Oh, okay.
So he's got shaved head, looks a bit mean, but he does all the stunts and the fighting. Sick. But he's also in who filmed Snatch?
Guy Ritchie.
He's in Guy Ritchie movies.
Oh, sick.
And again, so he's like an extra actor in those movies, but because of his jiu-jitsu background, so he can be in all the fight scenes and does all that. Yeah. So like if but in your like list of skills, are you putting like, I can ride a horse,
or
I can ride a motorbike, or like what can you put in there? And are you meant to put everything?
Yeah, pretty much. Like on all casting websites, they'll have
skills.
So
you just go tick, 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 tick.
Yeah. And you'll just select them all. So there's all the usual ones that you've just mentioned. I've done a bit of boxing, a bit of Muay Thai over the years as well. So, and that's why I want to get into jiu-jitsu, because I think it'll be very valuable as a skill to have.
Do you know what's really funny? Because I watch movies now, having done jiu-jitsu for a couple of years, and I'm like,
someone does it. Yeah.
It's so much of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially the mad American fight scenes, they're getting people in arm bars and flipping around and stuff. And you're like, these guys are experienced jiu-jitsu guys. One, because not only do you know how to perform that movement, but you can actually perform it gently.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and make it look savage. Do you know what I mean? So I think there are ways to sort of like manipulate that, not just with however the camera's being operated, but also you as an individual. Yeah. So we could do a fight scene. I could make it look like I'm breaking your arm. And I haven't quite twisted the thumb enough.
Yeah.
To break the arm, does that make sense? But I can make it look like it looks like, So I now spot that when I'm seeing fight scenes and stuff.
I think the more experienced you both are and the more comfortable you both are in those scenarios, the better it's going to be ultimately. Same thing whether it's fighting or it's intimacy. Ultimately you have an intimacy coordinator who will step you through, like I've done, a couple shows where I've done kissing and the kind of like simulated sex scenes, and you have someone literally who will be like, okay, you're going to kiss here, you're going to walk there, kiss there, shirt comes off here, roll over there. It's like A, B, C, D.
They make it as unsexy as possible.
Yeah. And it's very, professional, but ultimately, like, hopefully you've got you need chemistry with the person you're working with. And if you're comfortable with one another, you can be like, okay, cool. Are we good? Yeah, we're good. Right. Like, because it needs to be professional, and it fully is. But you also it needs to look real, right? So you need to, if it's too sterilized, then it's going to read as sterilized. So I think the more comfortable you both are, the better you are.
Have you ever had it in like a romantic scene where you've been super professional and then that person's thought, he likes me? Or they dropped you a DM afterwards because they thought, there was something in that kiss or something along those lines? Or have you ever thought, that felt like it could be love?
I will say my experience has always been that it's not sexy at all.
Okay.
Because you literally have people filming.
Lights, camera.
Boom over you. There's the intimacy coordinators sat in the room. My one show that I did that was like, simulated sex scene kind of thing. It was a smaller group in there. They have as few people in there as possible, kind of like closed set. But there's still the intimacy coordinator, she was sat in the corner of the room in an armchair, and then there's camera, boom. So I'm like, and all I'm thinking is I've got to go here, because you're like, all the marks you've got to hit because we're doing it on the move. And so I'm like, nothing about it is like, this is, we're not
having a moment.
It's not, So I guess a misconception might be that people think that, oh my God, there's going to be this.
If they're kissing.
God, isn't that like a big turn on? It's like, no, it's not that at all.
So you wouldn't have any issues with your future partner, wife, whatever, being in sex scenes on a movie? You're like, I've been on these. They're not fine.
No.
Would it make any difference if it was like with Leonardo DiCaprio or like, I don't know, George Clooney or Matthew McConaughey?
I mean,
maybe
George Clooney, Matthew McConaughey, and DiCaprio, of course. But no, I mean, it's all, mate. It's all professional.
Yeah.
When if you're from the outside, like, you wouldn't understand it, because, of course, imagining your partner kissing someone else.
Do see, like, didn't J-Lo and Affleck get together from a set?
I mean, look, not to say on set romance.
Brad Pitt and
so many people
Angelina. Yeah, fine.
Some people have done, but like, so not to say that that's not going to happen.
No.
But I guess more so my point was the actual scenes themselves, like, because you're spending so much time with someone, that's more where I would imagine it's going to come from. Because in between takes,
it's no different to a work colleague. Like, most affairs happen in the workplace, right? Because you might spend 8 hours a day sat next to Mary or Brian or whatever. Yeah, fine. Okay, makes sense.
Exactly.
One of the things I wanted to touch on, and we'll kind of end the sort of questions around acting, even though I've really enjoyed them, but how do you deal with the rejection? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just thinking, you must put tapes forward.
Romantically?
No, not romantically. That obviously never happens.
Didn't happen in our whole lives, so I just used to it.
But how do you deal with that? Is it hard to not take it personally? Because I don't know whether we've spoken about it, but I've definitely spoken about it with affiliate owners in previous podcasts. If someone cancels their membership, you're like, oh, it hurts, right? Yeah. So there's certain elements of that where it feels like rejection. But how do you deal with, you've sent off 10 casting tapes or whatever, and all 10 come back as no, or some don't even reply? Is it the same as like applying for a job? Like, I could apply for 10 jobs and never hear back from any of them. Is that the same in acting? So you could send in a nice cover letter. I don't know what you do, right? A nice cover letter in your reel, and hear nothing.
Yeah.
Or do they come back saying, cheers, Tom? No.
Well, when I first arrived in the UK, I blasted like emails to like 40 agencies or whatever, 40, 50 agencies, I don't know. It's got a list of all these agencies, and I sent them my show reel at the time and, a nice cover letter. And I maybe got emails back from like 2 or 3 to say, sorry, thank you for your application. We can't consider you at this time. But most of them just didn't respond, which is, they get, probably hundreds of emails a day or a week. So the first one I got as a rejection, that was the one that was more like, like, it's part of the game. But, and then when I didn't hear anything back from any of them, I was like, oh shit.
Okay.
We've got some work to do.
Yeah.
And that was when I realized, and I come back to UK, I realized that like drama school's a big thing here. Less so, I feel, than Vancouver, certainly my path anyway. I mean, I trained for a couple of years in acting at more boutique studios than going and doing like a bachelor's degree in, RADA or something. But drama school and theatre, and I feel there's a bit of a snobbery around it. People will often ask, oh, where did you study? Where did you train? What drama school did you go to? So I was like, oh, I'm not a drama school kid. Yeah, literally. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm not a drama school kid. So, and it was a tough time for the industry. I didn't have a ton of experience either. I'm not saying I was like this viable, really huge candidate to get brought into an agency, but I realized it's like my path is going to be one of like just getting out there, doing the work, taking what jobs I can, and then building from there. So back to your question about rejection, most times you don't hear back. So, but there are the odd jobs that you're like, I really want this one, and you think you're going to be great for, and you get nothing or a no.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, like I really wanted that job. And there's jobs where like I've been this close to commercials, man, like really high paying commercials. And the ones that you like really need, you want to do because they're big ones. Like
it will lead to 4 or 5 others, and they pay well.
Mate, there was one back in August. It was Amazon, and it was going to be going to Germany and interviewing Alfonso Davies, like in Munich, and I was like, this is sick. And I was down to the last 2. They had told me after the last 2, and I didn't get it. And I'm like, and it was between me and a female. They said evidently they're like, oh, we wanted a female presenter. So that softened the blow, because I'm like, oh, there's nothing I could have done. If I lost to another guy, and it's as silly as it sounds, like I would have been like, oh, what was he doing that I wasn't?
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, they just wanted, like, I can't compete.
Yeah.
With whatever they wanted.
No, I get you.
Compete.
Yeah, I get you.
So, but there's several other things where you get a recall, and you go into the casting room and you start to meet the director and stuff like that, and you're like, and then that's when I guess it maybe stings a little more because you feel a little bit closer to it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But otherwise, I don't.
But equally, super proud moments, right?
Yeah,
like huge brand, getting to the last 2. Like you said, in this instance, there's nothing you can do if they've decided that a female presenter is the right for that part. I suppose there isn't anything you can do. And if anything, it probably makes the fact that you got down to the last 2 and maybe knocked another female out of the two females that they possibly wanted. And they go, well, we were swaying towards female, but this guy's pretty fucking good. Let's put these two head to head and see where it changes sort of like the changes that sort of like the vibe of the role. No, mate, that's cool. And yeah, rejection's always a funny one, right? Because most of the time it's in our head, right? Maybe some of the insecurities we have.
Yeah, for sure.
We spoke about those in terms of education, right?
Yeah,
and why you maybe were possibly overqualified in some of the coaching roles that you were in, because you're like, I wanted to make sure that I was an expert in your field, I suppose. No, mate,
but it is nice. Sometimes you'll get really nice, feedback, like production company or casting agency or whatever will say, oh, we loved your tape, but we genuinely got, there's a generic email that goes like, thank you for your submission. But some that are more personal, when you're down to the last few, and that's when you hear something like that and you're like, oh, that's really nice, but you're also like, still didn't get the job, did I?
It doesn't pay the bills.
But you like hope that obviously in the long run, maybe it'll come back around or whatever.
Would you ever write your own script?
Yeah, I'd love to.
It's only because we were talking about The Office, right? And we were obviously having a giggle then. And I remember Gervais talking about, he tried for a long time, got like nowhere, wrote his own thing, and now look at him, like a multi-millionaire up on stage and all the rest of that jam. Is that like is that almost like when you talk about being like a Paul Scholes, came to United when I was 8 and I left United and I'm a legend and I won this? Is that like almost like the 1 in a million, or are there lots of other people out there who are like, no, I didn't write, I just act? Or does it just depend on how creative you're feeling?
I feel like a lot of creators I meet are doing a bit of something, a bit of everything, some are just like want to be acting, but I feel like, there's some sort of writing happening, even if it's just like I write poems because it makes me happy, or I'm playing some music and I write my own songs, not necessarily to try, but
just expression.
I think it's natural. I think once you start opening their well, it kind of just flows out. But I think, for me, for sure, I think creating my own work is something that will probably happen eventually. And it's something where I think there's I guess the side of me that's been in business it sees the business side of it as well, which is like, as much as I want to be starring in great productions written by amazing writers and great directors and all that kind of stuff, and I really hope that comes to fruition, I'm also like, I don't, you can wait around for someone else's permission to allow you to work, and I'm like, why, right? And it'll only get you better the more you do where you write and you start thinking about characters differently, and maybe you direct, even if it's just me and you make a 3-minute short film shot on our iPhone. But we have to kind of direct it and, edit it ourselves. We're going to see things which is going to help us become better actors. So.
I bet you were a better CrossFitter for coaching.
Yeah, 100%.
I used to do a little bit of boxing, and the guys would say, your time holding the pads, you learn more than hitting the pads. And it's because you start to see the body shape of how punches are thrown, which means now I can slip and miss them. Does that make sense? Other side of the camera. Cool. So it makes perfect sense. Maybe I do some basic, hobbyist stuff with mates, with housemates, just because it's fun on the iPhone and blah, blah, blah. But like you said, even though that, it's not Steven Spielberg, but it's still being on the other side of the fence. It does make you think about characters. And actually, how does this need to look? Because we've tried it. So makes perfect sense.
And I think ultimately it's just, the more you're creating, it's just, again, it's just like a state that you're in. I think it's really good.
No, it makes perfect sense. We touched... or we hinted in episode 2 about some potential grief you would have felt.
So we're switching away from acting now.
We are.
Okay.
We are. Because we didn't go into it in episode 2, but I think we hinted it at the start. And we didn't get into there. So I remember hearing about what happened to your friend through Elliot. Hello again, Al. So if you were to tell the camera, tell the guys watching what happened it was your housemate, wasn't it? Yeah, with your housemate. And then I just got a couple of questions around it. I won't go into it too much, but
pretty open.
If you're happy to just share sort of what happened and go into as much detail or not as you feel is respectable.
So Richard Neindorf, he was a mate I met in Vancouver in like 2015, I want to say. Originally from Australia, came into our CrossFit gym one day and just energetically, like when I met him, I was like, I'm going to be mates with you. I need to be mates with you. You know, is that you know, you meet those people in your life, so you're like,
yeah, man,
I know you already almost, you know. So, you know, the fast forwarding, we became good mates, and like, you know, we had a little kind of good group of friends there. A year later, or sometime later, I split up from a 4-year relationship, and so ended up moving in with him and a couple other guys, and he was the kind of mate that, you know, I stayed with him for a few days as my relationship was ending, and I was like, right, I'm going to go and now have the conversation. And it's like, you know, dreading this conversation. It was already done, but you know, you're dreading this conversation.
Yeah, you've got to say
so he's like, and it was like, say it was 6 p.m. on a Sunday. And he's like, oh, well, I'll be here waiting for you when you get back. You know, we'll talk about it, don't worry. And so I was like, yeah, you know, hopefully only be like an hour or two. You know, sure enough, 6 hours later, you know, I get back to the house. It's 12:30, and he's still up. He's still sat in the living room waiting, and you know, he's got work the next morning. But I was like, mate, what are you doing up? He's like, well, I said I'd be waiting for you when you got back.
Proper mate.
And I was like, oof, he's one of those guys, and you know, just big hug. You know, it was just, and he's the kind of guy that remembers what's happening and checks in. You know, you tell him something once, and the next time he sees you is, how's that thing with your sister? Yeah. You're like, oh shit, you remember that? And he's like, yeah. You know, and he was the kind of person that made you feel like sort of everything stopped whilst you were in conversation.
Yeah, man.
Like completely present.
Yeah, I've met those energies before, mate. They're super unique, and they're even more unique in a world where we are targeted by distraction.
Yeah.
Right. You know, whether it's your Apple Watch or your phone, or you know, flashing messaging board. You know, while you're in a restaurant, whatever. Everything is designed to distract you, right? Yes. So I think when you do find those energies, those characters, yeah, they're super unique. Yeah. Even more so now. It sounds like a great guy.
So I guess, yeah. So continuing that on then, so then I move in, you know, got this great little house, you know, there's 4 of us living in there, and super excited about like the next little bit of our lives. And a couple months after, or pretty much straight away after I moved in, he was having a few issues, like basically like stomach issues, I suppose.
Did he share these with you? Or did you?
He'd kind of remarked a little bit, but he was very much like, he was quite stoic with things. And he was quite like, would shoulder the burden of things, I guess, until there was something to tell, I suppose. But yeah, he started showing signs that he wasn't well as well. Like he just was quite fatigued and tired. And this was all within the first couple months. And it was one of our other roommates, Colby. He says, you know, I'm worried about Rich. And I was like, oh, you know, I think he's just, no, I didn't really read too much into it. You know, I was,
maybe he's burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, whatever it was. I just, you know, yeah. And I think, you know, he was he'd been to the docs about it this year, as it later transpired. He had been to the docs earlier that year. They're like, well, you're 27 years old, you're fit, you're healthy, you know, he didn't smoke, barely drunk normally kind of thing. And so they're like, oh, you need more fiber. Oh, you need, because he was having these stomach issues, and probiotics, and then it was, we'll give you some antibiotics because maybe you've got a parasite. And anyway, a year on from when he first went to the doctors, they go, okay, let's go for a biopsy. So I went for the biopsy. I go to pick him up from the hospital, and they're like, yeah, we found a tumor. Like we've taken not a biopsy, sorry, they were going for a scope initially. Finds a tumor, let's take a biopsy. It could be just benign. Turns out, you know, finds out a few days later, me and the other 2 roommates coming home from the gym, and he's waiting for us when we get home. And he's like, so got the news, he's like, cancer, stage 3, colorectal cancer. And he's like, you know, waiting to find out what treatments are going to be, but like it's go time. We've got to fight this thing now. So he goes in pretty soon after to the hospital, gets a ileostomy bag fitted. So, you know, he's 27 years old. He's got his colon cut open and sticking out of his belly, you know, with a bag on. Lost a lot of weight in hospital because couldn't eat, and sort of pretty quickly it was like, oh shit, this is real, you know. And then he started going through chemo and radiation, and did generally quite well. There's a lot of ups and downs. I mean, you know, there's a lot of nights of like late nights of pain, and we had to, you know, go to the hospital, and And again, he was someone who tried to be like, no, I'm fine. I'll go on my own. And, you know, you have to be like, mate, I'm coming with you, whether you like it or not. And he was always like mega grateful in the end for it. But anyway, it was a year of fighting, having chemo radiation. A year later, he gets the tumor cut out because it had shrunk.
Yeah.
So year on from the initial diagnosis, done this chemo radiation, tumor shrunk, gets it cut out, cancer free. So he's like, right, get back to life, gets everything put back together, like seemingly full recovery. But obviously they monitor you closely. The next year, then he's like, you just watch him like soar and take off as a human being, because he was very intelligent. He was an engineer, you know, extremely fit, like just muscular, like lean and mean, you know, was like learning Spanish on his lunch breaks, you know, he was passionate about videography. So was doing that in the evenings. Like this guy was like nonstop, you know. And then a year later he gets, I was in South America traveling at the time, and he basically had an episode where, oh no, he went to the doctors. They found something in his blood, like some of the levels were too high of whatever it is that they test for. And it turns out he's got stage 4, spread to his lungs. And at that point, you know, when you're stage 4, you're pretty much death sentence.
Yeah.
And then not shortly after, a week or two after, he's at work, has an episode where he's struggling to speak, can't formulate a sentence, and then like, I think collapsed, go to the hospital, do a CT scan. He's got tumors in his brain, spine. It was like just absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
So this was then, I think, sort of March, April time of 2019. And he's still like, you know, positive as hell. I'm going to fight this. And he started making some videos talking about his journey, because, you know, that's again how he was. He was just so like nonstop and always thinking about how he could help the world with, you know, what he's going through. And you know that the chances are basically none that he's going to recover from it, slim to none. But we're like, no, he's not going to die. You know, of course he's not. But slowly started to just chip away at him. And then all of a sudden there was just like a huge decline in the course of what was really only essentially 5 months from when he got re-diagnosed. So it was March he got re-diagnosed. In August he died.
Yeah.
And
sounds like a great guy, man. But like you said, rough. Young, man.
Yeah, 30 years old.
Yeah, crazy.
We were 2 weeks apart in age. He was 2 weeks younger than me, just before 31st birthday.
Yeah.
And he was one of those amazing human beings that really touched everybody's lives that he was a part of.
Yes, even though obviously what happened to him was terrible. Still thankful though that you got to experience his energy, his life, get to know him. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There are a handful of people that you're meant to meet for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But even though that's obviously a really sad way in which it ended and he passed, but I could just tell by the way you were talking about him at the start, like the smile on your face, like the twinkle in your eye, man, that he's obviously someone that was, you know, a positive influence and in terms of life. We spoke off air around grief, and I remember you saying something to me about you kind of knew you were grieving, but felt like you didn't deserve, or you shouldn't feel like it was your time to grieve. You know, there's his family and other people, and you wanted to be there for them. So tell me a little bit more about that, if you will. And grief's a funny thing. I've never really had to experience it yet. I obviously will. There's no book on it, right? there's nothing you can. There's no right or wrong way to deal with it. But yeah, if you don't mind, just telling me not too much depth, but a little bit about that time and how you're feeling.
Well, I think what we were talking about specific to this part was that when he was, you know, his last sort of, let's say, 2 months of being alive, like he was pretty, like I say, he started to drop off all of a sudden pretty quick. And, you know, he went from being like 200 pounds, 6'2", muscular, handsome guy to, you know, all his hair's gone, you know, lost all this weight. You know, he's probably like 40 pounds down at this point. And So you start to see it take him apart. And our house, so at this point, there's just 3 of us living in the house. And his parents had come over from Australia to be closer to him. His sister was living in the country too. So our living room, you walk in and you pretty much walked into our living room and most days he's sort of there, like sleeping, recovering on the couch. His parents are there. And it was just, there was so much like love and care, but ultimately it was a really heavy environment to be in. And I remember someone asked me at the time, was like, how are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm fine. It's not my time. I don't deserve, like, this isn't about me being like, oh, I'm sad. This is hard for me. I'm like, he's dying of cancer. So I think, to your point there, like, that was the time where I was obviously struggling a lot, like, but I didn't want to make it about me, of course. And even there was a guilt in it. And even now I'm comfortable to talk about it. But there was a guilt in ever sort of thinking, I deserve to feel sad right now. And I mean, also you're rallying and you're just there for your friend.
Yeah. You're trying to, especially if he's there with this super positive attitude, and you don't want to be not supportive in terms of that time too. It is a funny one though, because I feel like if I was going through something similar, I feel like you'd ask me the same question.
Yeah,
I feel like you'd be like, bro, you all right?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's it is I mean, like I said, I've never experienced it, so I can't comment, but something that I will obviously experience. But there is no like rule book on grief and what you're going to do, how you're going to feel.
No.
You're going to burst into tears in 6 months' time and not be able to stop crying. Are you going to be fine? Like, it's it's a tough one to navigate.
It was an interesting one, I suppose, because there's the different moments and stages, which is accepting then that, all right, I think we think he's going to die. Like it's pretty clear that's what's going to happen, and having a conversation with his sister, with his parents, with our friends, and then making sure he's able to see certain friends before that happens, who want to see him one last time. And so again, I think you're like, this is the most awful time, but my job at that point was to just be there for him, for the family, for all of us, to like hold together and kind of organize people coming and going. And maybe that was good too, because it kind of gives you something to do. Yeah, it gives you some purpose in it.
Yeah.
And also, just our lives were so intertwined that there was no way that whatever was happening with him, I wasn't a part of at that point. But, after that, that's when it's like.
Did his passing impact like the way in which you thought about like purpose and happiness in terms of a role change, a career change? Like, in terms of, you weren't loving the CrossFit coaching and even the one-to-one PTing you're doing. You were good at it, you did it, it was successful. But did his passing sort of influence, well, actually, I need to live life to its fullest and then make that jump and make that decision? Or was that just your personality anyway and your character?
I think I always wanted to enjoy what I was doing. So that was the seed had already been planted to change prior to his passing. But there was an initial, like, let's live for Richie now. Like, he lived life to the fullest, and we're going to honor him by continuing to do that. And there was I lost all fear. I remember there was a moment where I just, for the next little while, I was like, what is there to be afraid of anymore in life? Nothing now. Because I was like, death is there and it's inevitable. So I had a little period of like that, and I tried to really like push that. And, a few months later, doing Movember, we had this huge crew of us. We raised nearly like $25,000, and like, it was amazing. But then in secret, I was just broken. And you're trying to, I think you want to try and carry some momentum to be like, yeah, we're going to live now because of him, but you have to honor the fact that you need to just be sad and cry for a while and be devastated.
Would you, if you were to give yourself a bit of advice now, what would it be if you could go back?
That's a good question. Sorry, I wanted to actually just finish one point on that previous point. I think there was an initial kind of that, and then I had a complete what's the point in anything? I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like, not like a good, like, yay, like live hard for, like, live for Richie. Because then shortly, it's like 6 months later, COVID happens. And I just remember just being sat at home. And this is all the time, around the time that I decided to get into acting as well. But it was also, I didn't actively pursue it then, because I was still in a state of like just utter sadness. And I felt very like, why bother? What, like, nothing matters. Like, I didn't, quite honestly, I was like, I don't care if I live or die. Like, I don't care if I die tomorrow. And I wasn't at the point of taking my own life. But I was very much like, if I die tomorrow, I don't give a fuck, because I struggled to see purpose in life anymore, despite my friend dying and being like, oh, I should honor him by living and going out there and getting after it.
Sounds like a very conflicting set of emotions.
Yeah.
Like that we should live life to the fullest, to then whatever.
Yeah. It was the extremes. And quite honestly,
were you depressed?
It was my lowest point in my adult life. Yeah. It was one day in particular in COVID. It's probably a couple, 2 or 3 weeks in, and I sort of gradually isolated more and more, and which was what we were supposed to do.
Yeah.
It was like a perfect storm. And I was like, right, this is my time to now grieve. And, not to milk it, but you cry to the point where you like have no tears left, And I just remember I wasn't talking to my family or anyone. They're like, don't leave your house unless you have to. So I'd stay in for like 3 days in a row and cooped up. And one day my brother calls me, and Ben, he calls me and he's like, what's going on? Like, why are you ignoring everyone? And I was like, I don't want to talk to you right now. And he's like, speak to me now. He's like, this is like, I'm not going to keep chasing you if you don't talk to me. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, he was like quite like boom with me. And I just broke down on the phone, and I was like, every day right now is so hard. And he was like, oh shit. And he's like, right, I'm going to come pick you up. He just had his first son a few months earlier. So he's like, come to the house and we're going to, spend some time with the kid, work out, like get you.
Yeah.
And that
connection.
Yes. And that moment, that if I were to like visualize what it was, I felt like I was in hell at that point in time. Like my mind was in hell. And that was the moment where like I got pulled out, and Ben was like the hand of God pulling me out, being like, okay, let's start going upwards now.
Yeah.
So mental.
And just because I want to finish on, I'm talking about Rich. What's your go-to moment with him where you're like, it just cracks you up, like you laugh or you smile or whatever? What's the sort of story that, like, if you and the gang were together now and you're talking about, you're doing a fundraiser for Rich or something like that, what's the thing that you would talk about or you'd mention where you're like, everyone would laugh or just
well, I suppose I mean, there's always a few, but the one that comes to the top of my head. So weed is legal in Canada, and especially for medical purposes.
Yeah.
And but it was legal for everybody. But so that was something that was being used to obviously help with symptoms for him. And so we'd get high on a Saturday night and just kind of just chill, because that was all that was really able to do. So I remember one time we would go to the little Chinese supermarket across the street, and they had like live fish and everything in there, and we played this game called the odds game, but it was basically a betting, daring kind of game.
Yeah.
Anyway, the short version is he ends up having to buy a live fish from the supermarket.
What did you do with it?
Well, he kept it as a pet for a little while.
Oh, okay, nice.
So,
good. I hope you didn't just flush it.
Yeah, no, he did just put it down the toilet.
Nice.
But we were just both really high, and it was one of those things where
I could imagine where it's just the funniest thing in life. Nah, good. Bro, we're I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But there are just a couple of things that we've spoken about, and this has been sort of away from the podcast. This has just been me and you chewing the fat, and it's usually over something we see on social media where there can be sort of either something that resonates or something that's a bit conflicting. But I think one of the things that we spoke about last, and it was over the Xmas periods, we spoke about that toxic masculinity, that word, like hybrid athlete, right? The one that it's just, I hate to really use. Yeah, it makes me cringe. But you shared a post on sort of masculinity, a post, or shared it with me with some of your views, and the guy did make some valid points in it. But what are your thoughts on? We'll just first and foremost that phrase, toxic masculinity. What are your thoughts on it? And I spoke with my nephew when we did our podcast together, and it was around masculinity, and I said, this is a super conflicting time to be male. And sort of trying to understand like what your role is and should be. And he told me a story. He told me it off air, and he didn't want me to bring it up because in case the person saw it. But he got told off for holding a door open for a lady. Yeah, in the supermarket, and he was like, oh, I didn't know what to do because you told me to open the door.
Yeah,
for a woman. Like,
that's weird.
Bro, honestly, I was like, you did the right thing.
I don't think that's the norm.
No, I said, you did the right thing. This person was obviously not having a particularly pleasant day.
Yeah.
It's a reflection on them, not on
you.
100%.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, first and foremost, and we'll probably delve into a few bits, but yeah, that toxic masculinity, that sort of word, and how do you, what are your thoughts on it? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is a interesting subject to discuss.
Conflicting, right?
Conflicting, but I mean, I think the term itself, maybe, at one time it had some specific intention behind it, good or bad, but I feel like now it feels lazy.
Yeah.
If someone says toxic masculinity, it's like, it's just tiring everyone with a generic.
Same bash. Yeah, agreed.
I think there's an irony in generalizing any group. Right? Male, whether it's by gender or race or sexual orientation, whatever it is. I think it's laziness, and there's an irony that people always talk about inclusivity and all these kinds of things and equality, and then are happy to generalize and demonize one group. So yeah, I don't like the phrase toxic masculinity. I guess I don't really know. I think anything can all of a sudden be labeled.
Yeah, there's toxic people, right?
I think that's the classic.
Yeah, there's toxic people, whether they're male or female. I think I'm with you. I think it's a word that's bandied around, a bit of a bandwagon, a bit of a fad, for want of a better word. And there's a degree of laziness in tarring people with that brush. I do think personally, it's genetic makeup of males in comparison to females. We do try and fix things. It comes sort of quite naturally. And me and my partner have spoken about it before in terms of she might be talking about something and I'm giving her practical ways to fix that issue.
Yeah.
That isn't really what she's wanting from me at that point in time. And it's trying to sort of like navigate that and move around that. But I think I do feel like it is a conflicting time for young men. And I actually put it down maybe to maybe there isn't a clear direction of purpose for them. But it's go on.
No, I agree. I think like, without purpose, we're all screwed. We all need to, just to my previous point there with Rich, like I didn't see the point in anything anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't see, I felt no purpose. So if you don't have that, then what are you living for? What are you getting up for every day? And I was listening to a podcast, good old Chris Williamson's always great for this subject. I forget the guy's name who was on it recently, but anyway, he was talking about just having good role models for men as well.
Yeah.
And he was saying just, the next generation of men that are really sort of successful and that are leaders are going to be ones that are highly emotionally intelligent, because that's what the world needs from men now.
Yeah.
It's not, and I think this is a shift from being like men are going to be, the working man, physical labor, building stuff, going to work while wife stays home. That was the setup once upon a time, which is not our generation now. Still, for some people, if that works, great. But so now men are like, can just sit and play computer games and jerk off and to porn and don't need to, don't really have like, what do you need a man for in society? Because obviously, women are crushing it.
Yeah.
Right. Rightly so.
It's
Brilliant.
been fun.
No, it was really
been fun.
It was a lot of fun.
And I've enjoyed. I'm glad that we did the third one here.
Yeah.
Even though I really enjoyed the ones in the gym as well. Thank you very much for being on the show. 2026 sounds like it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I hope so. Hope so for you too.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. There's lots going on at the gym. We've got some comps and bits and pieces coming up, which will be cool. We do a Blood of Glory comp at the end of January, which is awesome. Really, really fun. And that sort of takes some of the newbies, and because it's an all abilities comp, we see people really stepping out of their comfort zone. And then you start in 2026 with, I've done my first CrossFit comp. What a way to start it, right?
That's great.
That nicely leads people into the open, which is cool. And then we have like an open comp in May called Watch the Throne, which is getting busier and busier. And that's a really fun comp. We do mixed fours. So that the thought and work that goes into that will start probably after the open. And then before you know it, mate, we get in towards the end of the year and another year in the bag for Monarch. So no, 26 will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Let's smash it.
Guys, thank you very much for tuning in for episode 3. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again to Tom for his time and his efforts. Our next guest is Lewis Jones, aka the Food Coach. We'll have his first episode coming out on our next Friday. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Cheers, Brad.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.